Welcome. Today's topic is a biggie for me. I've been avoiding doing this one for quite some time, primarily because of a lot of evidence stuff and how to present this without exposing some open case information. So we finally came to a conclusion of how I can do this and what I can and can't say. So um, that all being said, this is about the church elder and slash Noah's Ark, which you're going to my own version of Noah's Ark in my life, I guess. Which you'll understand why I labeled it that. My first question when I sat down was, how many rats can you actually fit in one ark? Because there's a great number of them involved in this story. I'll tell you. How did it begin? I moved back to a place I was familiar with in my past. After my second husband was trying to kill me, I have had family. My parents live nearby here. And I really thought, okay, I'll reconnect with family. I'll try this one more time after 20 years of not having anything to do with them, because they were pretty evil in my past. And I really didn't want that in my life. There were some things I knew already, but I tried to because it was family go, that can't possibly be true. And ignored a lot of the signs and information that I was given. So, stupid me moves back closer to my family. And during this move, of course, I needed to get a different job. My divorce had been started. I was moving right from the domestic abuse shelter to a new place. And I did get a new job at a local hospital. And I was going to be an administrator in the maintenance division, which, now keep in mind, is all men. Most of the jobs that I've held, I've worked with big groups of men. I mean, I worked for an electrical contracting company and purchasing. The vast majority of electricians are men. Okay, so it's examples like that. So of course the maintenance department of this hospital was mostly men, and I get along with men really well. I can do it in a professional way, and I get how men talk and stuff. So, as you can tell, I don't hold back. So I mean, it's easy environment for me. So this guy ends up, he's one of the maintenance men. And I don't know this hospital well at all. In the course of things, on my first day of training, I have to send out calls to the maintenance guys that are out there doing stuff to fix things in the hospital. And he's the one on call if something comes up that he has to go to a certain room or something and check something. So I call him, and he's like, I had met him beforehand a little bit. He was very, very nice and kind. And he's joking around on the phone, going, "Oh my gosh, what took you so long to call?" The girl who's training me is just laughing, because he's a bit of a comedian. And so, I developed a sense of this guy's, pretty nice. Well, he kept asking me, things about my past and what brought me there and blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, he stopped by the desk that I worked in, which is, right in the main maintenance area, and starts having this conversation with me. And I tell him about my ex-husband, poisoning me, and, where, what brought me back to the community. And then he wanted, more details on all that. So we got into a very in-depth conversation that took quite some time. Next thing you know, I needed some tours of the hospital. So I had recommended it, says, can he take me on a tour? I feel comfortable with him. And they're like, yeah, that's okay. So there was 2 different days. We spent like 2 or 4 hours together on these tours. And the second, day, of course, he was like, no, I'll tell you a place and you take me there. Like, I'm giving him the tour, right? So we tried this to see if we could, it was a big hospital. And I needed to, with maintenance, you need to know everything. And so, we did that. Well, then that day, and I had talked to him about, where I lived and stuff, and that I needed some furniture moved and stuff because I just moved in, and could he help me? And he was gonna do that for me. Well, on this tour, all of a sudden he shows me, opens this door, and it was like an elevator shaft. And I looked in and like, not taking another step towards that. That's just an open elevator shaft thing. Like, why would I even want to look at that? But it was like in a room that was a closed room, and little did I know, he knew where all the cameras were, right? I did not know where the cameras were at that point. And all of a sudden I turn around to, walk towards the door thinking this is a little sketch. And I turn around and he grabs me and kisses me. And I mean, full kiss, hands in my hair, everything. And I mean, I did kiss him back, but I was shocked. He lets me go. And I'm like, I take a breath and I had to sit down. I was like, and he goes, "Are you okay?" I go, just shocked that you just did that. I mean, we had talked. We were flirting, very flirtatious. It was going somewhere, no doubt about it. I found him extremely attractive. He had told me some things about his marriage wasn't going all that great, and then he kissed me, and I was like, okay. Knowing he was married and stuff, we got to another part of the tour, and I said, okay, so if we do this, me and you cross this line, there's got to be rules. I said, one, you can never leave your wife for me. You can't do it. If I have this affair with you, I do not want to be the homewrecker. So you can't leave her. You can't do this. And that we were agreed upon with that it was just going to be a small affair. He was going to stay in his marriage, even though it was bad. And I was going to work with him and help him out. He was going to help me out a little bit, and so be it, right? Not exactly perfect morals, but I'm going to tell you, I just went through a life and death situation, and my ex-husband was still trying to hunt me down. Had a hitman on me. I mean, yeah, throw caution to the wind and have fun with life, right? I mean, that's where my mind was. And I still to this day won't blame myself for that, because I wasn't in the right frame of mind to be making those decisions, but yet, I didn't have the help and assistance to get through anything that I needed either. I didn't have anybody. And so I kind of just went with it on that. And forgive me, I've got like pages of notes here because, and like I said, because I have to be careful about what I say and what I don't say right now with this because of some investigating that's going on. So forgive me if I have to look at my notes because I just want to blurt out everything that happened, and then there's some things I have to be minimalistic with at this point. I'm sure there will be if I survive. I mean, I'm dying soon anyway, but depending on how long everything takes, there'll be an update video when I can tell you everything else. But for right now, forgive me if I have to look at some notes here. But so anyway, we agreed to help each other out. He did come over. He came. Well, first I had to go to his church. Okay, so we went to his church, and I was willing to, check it out. And I did not sit with him and his family at all. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. No, before that, he had invited me as a coworker over to his house. He had told his wife, I was getting a divorce and, some of the things that happened. And she was at work. She was a piano teacher, and she was at work giving lessons. And I came over one night, and he was showing me the art, and I got to meet his kids and all this kind of stuff. And then she came in. She didn't look happy that I was there, and we were all having a great time and stuff. That kind of went south. But then, when I saw her at the church, I asked her, I says, "Can your husband come and help move some stuff in my apartment?" And she was okay with that, so he did. But the whole point was for him to come over and we could have sex. So that happened, and then she had a piano recital thing going on that night, so we went back to that, and then he had me sit by, he was doing the sound booth thing, he had me sit there, and we're passing notes like a bunch of sick teenagers, and kind of when I look back on it, I'm like, this was really sick, because this poor woman, keep in mind, I didn't really know her. I was believing everything he was telling me about this relationship, And I really didn't have any morals. Everything my husband did to me, trying to poison me, sleeping with 20-year-olds, possibly 13-year-olds in her bed, um, doing drugs all of a sudden. My life changed in very fast and in a hurry. And unfortunately, I lost my morals in the process too. After all that happened, my animals were killed. I mean, I was going through so much trauma by myself. I had nobody to talk to. Somewhere in the course of this, my family involvement became an issue relatively quick after I moved back home or back here. And it was, yeah, I just really didn't care about anything anymore. I just did whatever I wanted to do. Now, I do carry huge remorse, and you'll hear more at the end. I feel really terrible about doing all this behind this woman's back and yet facing her. I was her friend. Well, I wasn't really her friend, but acting like I wanted to be her friend. It got to the point where I would go to their house and help with yard work, and then she would come home and she would be very angry that I was there. She knew something was going on. It was almost like I was trying to be brought into the family. There was a night that we were concerned that, well, and they ended up finding out where we worked that me and him were messing around. I got canned and lost my job. And then that night, there was also, some things that were left in my apartment because they were breaking into my apartment, leaving USB drives and stuff. And so there was a concern that he might come and kill me that night, or somebody was going to. So this guy convinced his wife to let me spend the night at their house, and which I did. I don't think I slept at all, but I did spend the night. And then shortly after that, I took care of business on my own in a situation with the police, and basically with the USB drives, and I mean, trying to get the police to help me with the situation with my ex and the murder stuff. It turned out that they weren't going to help me until I finally one day said, okay, well, here's the deal. I'm done calling you. I'm done expecting you to do the right thing and bring justice to this. This is what we'll do. Since I won't completely block you out of everything, but when they come after me, I will take care of it myself. I will call you. You can come and clean up the mess. How does that sound? Because that's what we're going to do now. Oh, ma'am, you can't do that. Watch me. If I'm going to be tortured, I might as well be in prison. So bring it. I will take care of this myself. All the history line is there and what you should have done. I'll be fine in the end. I'm not worried about it anymore. And I grew a set of balls, I think, and then the police cared. Shortly after that, the police cared. A little bit. I wouldn't say the Outagamie police, but other counties have cared because they realize this is a serious situation. And it started with this man, and that's why this video is so important. This man's involvement in my life actually did bring a lot of things to light. I did not know at the time. But anyway, apparently he would do different things like take late night walks. Now I know he wasn't always at my place when these would go on. When we were together and we would have sex, he would wear his ring. He didn't take his ring off or anything, and we had talks about that. One night he called me threatening he was going to kill himself, and I should meet him at a park. And we had these terrible rains, and there was flooding, and so I did go to this place and pick him up. His wife drove in, and checked out. Was looking for him apparently, and keep in mind this could be a complete setup for me. Apparently I'm a little smarter than they are, but anyway. So she came in, and then she was driving out, and we followed her out to a certain point and left, and he was ducking in the vehicle and pretending, nobody could see him, but he had been meeting up with some guys in a truck before I got there. And then they took off the second I got there. That's all I can say about that. I can't even say where it was at. But anyway, so there was a lot more with late night walks, stuff like that. Well, I had given him a cell phone to communicate with me because he didn't have a cell phone. His wife wouldn't let him have one. I wonder why. But of course, the cell phone was always tracked and where it was and stuff. I mean, the history of everything was out there. So and that I can't speak much on either, but for his late night walks, we do know what was going on. But like his family was questioning things. I was questioning things. There was a lot of weird stuff. All of a sudden one night he calls me and he says, I need to come and spend the night at your place. He goes, he took an overdose. I went and I picked him up and he came over. And apparently he had all these charcoal pills, and he took this overdose of charcoal pills, and he was sick for a long time. I stayed up with him all night long to make sure this guy was not going to die. And supposedly he was being threatened. He was involved with other people to set me up. That's the only piece that I'll say right here. There's a little more I can tell you at the end. And there was some blackmail going on and stuff. And he confessed to his wife a little bit of this stuff. It had to do with webcam women and porn sites. That's how it started. Full investigation in that. Don't worry. It'll be exposed one day. But anyway, so they threatened him. He told her then he was going to kill himself. She told him he had to leave. He was a danger to the family. He left. He came with me. She barricaded the house. She was terrified of these people and their threats and their blackmail and all the stuff that was going on. Really funny how my mother and father know this guy so well. I just felt like saying that because I can't say anything else around it. That's the one piece of that I can tell you. But anyway, shortly after that, then she realized, she was tired of this, him going back between me and her. So she did file. She told him, she goes, she threw him out, and he called me, and he was, can I move in with you? I'm like, yeah, I guess. So he did. He moved in with me, and then she filed for divorce. Can't say that I blame her at all on that. I mean, I would have done the same damn thing. There were times where I would sometimes not be able to sleep because of some of the threats against me and finding the USB drives, and I'd go to the hospital. When he would work night shift in maintenance, I could just walk around the hospital with him, or sit in certain areas. So that helped us bond as well. I got to know the whole security crew at the hospital late night and everything. They were very big in church, though. And I did not know this in the beginning, but later I found out he was a church elder, an elder of the church. I didn't go back to that church. That church is a full-on cult, and I knew it right from the beginning. She had gone to the church elders and told them what was going on. Then they called him in, and he recorded the whole meeting and then let me listen to it afterwards and stuff. And what they all said about him being with me and everything, trying to get the marriage back together. So there was huge church involvement on their part. Now, things got sketchy with me and him. When he lived with me, I would get up and make breakfast in the morning before he'd go to work, and I was looking for a job. And one morning, this is going to seem sketch because I can only tell you bits and pieces. This piece I can tell you because it's on video camera, so he knows it. He was caught. I had video cameras all over my entire apartment. They're visible to anybody. If you lived there, you knew you were being recorded. But I had seen it firsthand myself. And he had taken, I had salt, a container of salt, and then I had a salt shaker. The salt shaker is what we'd always use. And he had taken the salt shaker on my eggs, which I caught as I was kind of walking through the room. And then I had to come back to get something. And when I came back, I had stopped by him. He had the full salt thing there, and he was putting some in his hand, and he looked at me and then acted like nothing was abnormal, but I'm noticing it while I'm talking to him. He's taking that salt and putting it on his food. Needless to say, the salt in the salt container, which is in evidence, was tainted. So either, somebody put something in it. I'm not going to say, well, I can't say anything. But it was tainted. He knew that. So he used the good salt on his food and the tainted salt on mine. Needless to say, I didn't really eat breakfast that day because I thought something was kind of up in sketch. But there were other times that I did, and I would have like these almost wanting to have a seizure afterwards, attacks and stuff. So there were many days where I'd be like, I'd make him breakfast, or if he made, and I didn't notice it at that time, it was only on the days he made breakfast. If I made breakfast, I would eat with him. If I didn't, which was like once a week, maybe I had breakfast with him after that. And I wouldn't eat if he cooked breakfast anymore. Because then I started realizing, yeah, the days I don't feel good and I feel like I'm going to pass out or I have this seizure, it's the days he makes breakfast. Again, just like the first poisoning, it added up. It just took time. I just couldn't put those pieces together because I didn't think this person was going to do anything to me. You can't just automatically think everybody that comes in your life is going to do it. And I thought, what are the odds? 2 in a row. Well, hold on. Hold on to your pantyhose here. Because it gets good. All of a sudden one night he was there and I knew something was up. And I'm staying up and I'm like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. And he went to bed and I'm sitting up and all of a sudden I could hear all this activity increasing outside. So I took out my weapons. I'm like, this isn't right. There's a bunch of like teenage, younger, 20-year-old people out in the parking lot. What are they doing out there? And you could hear them yelling and screaming and talking and blah, blah, blah. And he goes down there. He finally gets up and he goes, what, aren't you coming to bed? And I go, no, look at all this activity going on outside. He goes down there. Oh, they're looking for a dog. No, they're not calling for a dog. They're saying the word bitch over and over. I go, that's not the dog's name. I know that. And, so I kind of open a window a crack and I'm sitting there and watching and they kept looking up at my apartment and they could see me in the window. And then they could see him. And then he sits up and I says, you just go to bed? I said, you have to work in the morning? I said, I don't have to. I'm just going to stay up and work on a crafting project. And he sat in that chair and he goes, I'm not going to bed until you do. I said, well, then you're staying up all night? I won't go to bed. I ended up finding out I had more recorders and stuff, put in my apartment that he was letting people in my apartment. He would basically wait till I go to sleep, gas me, and, make sure that I was going to be sound asleep for a while. And people were in my apartment. I did not know this till much later, what was actually going on. There were more, he got pissed because I did put in some more recording devices and cameras, and then I did a sweep of my apartment. He's like panicking when I did the sweep of the apartment because they had their own recording devices and stuff in my apartment. He's like, you're supposed to tell me this. You're supposed to tell me this stuff. It's like he was living with me as a spy to know everything. He compromised my entire security system because he had his own way in and out of my apartment. He would leave the spare light on in the spare room as a sign that I was still awake. When he was sure I was sound asleep, the light would go off and people across the lake would be able, or across the river, were parked over there waiting for that sign. And the night that everything kind of got busted was the night where I left the light off. You know, I went in there and I said, why is this light on? And I had been clued in already. I knew a little bit of what was going on and I shut it off. And then that was the night everybody showed up in the parking lot because they're like, she's still awake. Why is the light not on? And he then had to explain to them, gig was up. I was on to something. I knew a lot more than that at the time, but I just let them do their little thing. Anyway, after, you know, so much of this went on, and I was pretty much done with things. Me and him were arguing a lot. I was starting to confront him with a lot of things. He was wearing gloves, so his handprints wouldn't be on anything. So sketch. Then there was a connection. You know, he knew the recording device was in the cedar chest, and they came and they got it. They were dumb enough to come in the apartment, take out the red felt, take the recording stuff out, and clean it. I know they don't. I can say that it's on video, and exactly who did it, and his involvement in it. So I'm allowed to say that part. There's so much criminal activity that happened, but these people are the minor people. The whole reason nothing's been done is because there's a bigger dog that will get caught first off of all of this. So they can't release this stuff till they have everything that they want on the big dog. They're not giving up the big dog. And I'm not either. I said, you go for it. You go for it. So that's just where this is all sitting. But I mean, eventually there will be justice, I know, on all of this. So this isn't as bad as my ex-husband over in Outagamie County. I want Outagamie County to take responsibility for their part too. But they can't because they have inside men that are hiding everything, and half the department's probably going to get fired. But anyway, he moved out, and July 4th weekend happened, and that was the weekend that they came in and cleaned everything out. I was in the shower. I was in my shower, and they came in. And you're like, well, how you? We know how they got in. We know who was all involved in letting them in. Whose apartments they went through. How? Yeah, it's all knowledge. They came in my apartment while I was in the shower to do this, and then messed with my laptop and stuff, and did the whole USB drive thing and all of that. The whole thing ended up being a big plot. Now, after he left, there wasn't much communication. There was a wee bit of a fight. Now, one time, here's something with my parents is they would come to town and meet with my brother all the time and never tell me they were there. The restaurant they would go to, I lived a half a block from, I could walk to this place. And they would meet with my brother there who lived in the same town all the time. This one time, they happened to tell me they were going to be in town. Same night, me and this guy were going to go out and maybe get something to eat. Oh, they didn't. No, they didn't tell me they were going to be in town. They told him. He didn't tell me, but they told him. And he said we should go get something to eat. I ordered food from this place. He told them then what place, because this had to be done earlier in the day. I had to pick a place and order food. So then me and him get into this conversation. Well, we better go. We better go. We better go. Our food's going to be really cold. And we were about half an hour to an hour late when we were supposed to pick up our food. And I'll be darned if my parents weren't sitting there. They had completely eaten a long time ago. They were still sitting there. Because we went over and joined their table. I mean, my mom, I would have walked out without seeing him, but she came up behind me. Oh, I thought it was you. We were here to have dinner with your brother, but your brother didn't show up. Okay, so if my brother didn't show up and you drove an hour to have dinner with him and you know I live a half a block away, why don't you call me? Of course, that didn't make any sense. Of course, I'm not that stupid. But anyway, so we sit at the table and he's just chit-chatting it up with my mom and dad. And I knew they knew each other. That was the moment where I'm like, because I know my parents and I knew him. I'm like, you guys have all met before. I knew it. That was the moment. Everything after that, they were all in jeopardy. So I go to my mom's house this one night after I'm arguing with him on the phone. In the meantime, my mom takes a USB drive out of my purse, copies things over, and his job is to keep me on the phone. So he's arguing with me intentionally outside where I can't see what my mom's doing. And then when I get done, that was a really long conversation. It was really long. And when I leave, she goes, I have my purse. She goes, don't forget your purse. Don't forget your purse. Or she took the shit out of, because of course if I'd have left it, then I could accuse her at some other point. But no, she was doing that already. What they don't realize was everything that was on those USB drives, if it went into other computers, was already being tracked and it was picking up their information. Dumb. Do you think I just, after everything I have been through, is stupid enough to just, I think I'll just leave the USB drives out for right there in the base of my purse. I'm going to hide it a little bit better than that if I don't want you to find it. Stupid criminals. I couldn't even, I write novels. I could not even make this crap up. It's that good. Okay? I mean, what these people did, it's that good. It's like, man. Now, remember when I said the webcam girls and the porn? Well, my niece is a porn star. These girls from Oshkosh were prostitutes and webcam girls. Men were being enticed in, and then to keep the secret from their families, they just had to do this stuff to me. And his big secret was, big sex porn addiction. He's an elder of the church. Nobody can know this. He'll ruin his whole life. Well, in the end, he still paid a price regardless on that. There is question. Some people that you would think wouldn't be involved in it were involved from the get-go. His wife is questionable. Like, was she so surprised her husband was having an affair? Maybe not so much. Maybe she's not as innocent as it seems. Anyway, he was supposed to come and change the oil in my vehicle, and he never showed up because some other stuff happened where I went to other authorities. I had to be quarantined for 3-4 days for information stuff, and we did that in a different setting that wouldn't be discovered, and we did our own little setup on that. So they thought one thing, another thing was happening, which they're going to find out soon. But anyway, my parents were involved in hiring this man to be involved with me, see how much I was saying about the murder over in Outagamie County, the attempted murder, because they were involved in that too. And there was drugs galore being handed out to everybody, prostitutes, free porn, women willing to do just about anything. Because my parents are involved in a lot more than I can even say. Big dogs are going to fall pretty soon. Let's put this: big dogs are going to be put on a leash in a kennel and taken very good care of for the rest of their lives. So this ark got a little crowded with rats. So Noah's Ark, I can guarantee you, was filled to capacity. And then some. And the ark's about to unload. And there will be shelter for all the animals that were involved. To close it off, though, I did, because keep in mind, until I was secluded, there was a lot I didn't know. That every piece came together. I wasn't on my own that whole time, and I knew it. But I did feel that I should not have slept with a married man. 1, an elder of a church. 2, he was married. 3, he was a coworker. And there are so many reasons why that should not have happened. So despite everything that was being done to me and this whole setup to try to compromise me, to continue to try to kill me, to try to make it look like I was taking drugs, to all this stuff, that I was crazy, everything. Despite all that, where I could easily say, well, I don't feel bad at all. I did. I still, after learning everything, felt remorseful, because regardless, I should not have done that. And I wrote him a letter stating, I hope you get back together with your wife. We can never see each other again. This is completely wrong on massive levels. And thankfully they did get back together. They were going to get back together anyway. But I didn't know that all those details are, because her sister and her sister's husband funding things and putting the money in, more drugs, and that was over in the same, over in Brown County. And yeah, a lot of it I wasn't aware until later, as it's grown and grown and grown, and we can see everybody's little carbon footprint in this. So yeah, there's big dogs. Once that started coming to light, it's like, we're going to pause on this if you're okay with that, because we can get these guys first. It's like, whew, I'm okay with that. Let's do this. So Noah's Ark hopefully will be emptied soon. And moral, I don't even care if it's a church elder, okay? I mean, I say church elder, don't mess with the church elders. But just so you are aware, people in churches and church elders are human. They're no different than you. Holding them to a higher level and saying that they're right and just in the decision-making processes is not right. I don't even know why they have elders in the church. Because look what happens. They're no different than me and you. At all. So do with what you want with that information. The base thing is, don't have an affair. if I would have had my moral structure around me and not had that affair with him, they couldn't have done a fraction of what they did, which, to this day, they still think is hilarious. Hilarious that they were trying to kill somebody and drive someone crazy and set them funny. Oh, the mountain of recordings of laughter is unbelievable how sick these people are. I shouldn't feel bad about not having any morals at that point, but I do. I am not them, and I will never sink to that level. So don't have affairs with married people. Just don't do it. I ended up with 3 things from the Bible I wanted to share. Titus chapter 1, verse 6. An elder must be blameless, faithful to his wife, a man whose children believe and are not open to the charge of being wild and disobedient. Okay, so now we know why we have elders. It's in the Bible. But the elder must be blameless, faithful to his wife. Well, that church doesn't have very good elders. I wouldn't recommend going to it. Anyway, next one, Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. It's one or the other. Matthew, that's a gospel. God or money. I know a huge arc full of people that chose money. I don't know many that would choose God. I didn't. I chose God. All right, and Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. Present your bodies. Turn yourself in before they come and get you. Escape the ark of destruction that you're on. There's no more flood. The ground is good. You can come out. You can save yourself. Maybe minor punishment. You don't have to. Either way, there's going to be punishment, but learn from my mistake of having an affair with somebody and losing my morals that I didn't have. Get a grip on it before it's too late. And you do the right thing, but that's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Either way, I'm satisfied. So be careful when you have those affairs. Things can get really, really tricky. And if somebody is trying to get in too close to you when you're already going through a attempted murder situation, you might want to push those people back because they're just there to get information, most likely. And watch your church elders. They are not blameless and they are not faithful to their wives. I know. All right, on that note, I wish you all well. Love you.